Drive Home with Maggie and Perloff. Afternoons 3 to 6 on WSKO Syracuse, a Cumulus media station. The voice of the Central New York sports fan, The Score, 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Good show for you today. Had a conversation with James Zuba, our SU basketball guy. Yesterday, I interviewed him. I'll play that for you here today. A lot of news in the SU basketball world. Of course, the dismissal of Benny Williams. We'll get into that as a show later on as well. We've got a big game today, noon. I'd say maybe the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
In the conversation. And Jim already in the chat asking questions like he does. Easy one to start. Has any opposing player, football or basketball, ever received this much attention? No.
No, I don't think
Probably not. Because really in the world of the before the world of the transfer portal, this wasn't really a problem.
Right.
Like, guy transfers, he sits out for a year, and
by the time it comes back, the hate's kind of died
Yeah.
down. It's whatever.
But this is a guy that spent 4 years here and said, peace.
Yeah.
And went to a conference rival.
Instantly comes back to the dome.
Instantly
Wearing
comes
the
back
orange.
to
How dare you? You wear that knockoff orange.
Part of it is the fact that he went to another orange team.
Yeah.
That's certainly part of it. Can you imagine if he was on Tennessee when we played them earlier? If he transferred to Tennessee and they're like our fourth game of the year.
He'd be the eighth guy off the bench, but he'd nail a three.
And he'd hit a dagger, dude. He'd hit a dagger. Yeah, he's getting a lot of attention. I say rightfully so. I mean, we've talked about him on the show many times. He's a very divisive player among SU fans, myself included.
I don't know about you. I think it's starting to come around. I've seen some people online lately who are like, we could use a guy like this. I'm like, whoa. I thought we were all in agreement. So this guy sucked. Okay? I thought we all hated him. We're going to boo his bum out of the dome today.
I think it's going to be a very mixed reaction because they're going to play a video. You know for a fact there's a Joe Girard video on tap for today.
4 years you got to play.
4 years, went to the tournament, was part of some really good teams. Like, there's going to be a video.
Can I just say something? I don't like these videos. I don't.
You're not a tribute video guy?
Thank you, Braylon.
This has nothing to do with this. But like when this is NBA, when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant were going back to Brooklyn, they're like talking about playing them a video.
Yeah.
Why? What did they do?
No, that one full agree.
What did sir, he was okay, but like, what did Syracuse win while he was here? Like, what did he contribute?
He was part of a Sweet 16 team. They went to the Sweet 16 with him.
Final Four?
Yeah, I love it.
If this was Malachi Richardson and went to a Final Four and all that, it depends.
Some kind of banner,
it's something.
Even a ball.
I love that. Braylon's coming out firing early, and I love this take. I'm hit or miss on tribute videos. I think they are warranted at times. Like when D Wade went to Cleveland and they played in Miami, what are they going to do? Not salute D Wade? I mean
3 championships.
Yeah, like so
brought LeBron there.
Yeah,
the best years of your franchise.
Like there are certain, there are certain players that deserve this is something. Has LeBron ever had a tribute video? Like, did he?
I'm sure he had one in Cleveland, probably.
I bet you not the first time he left and came back,
the
but
first time,
2018 or whatever, his first time Lakers played back in Cleveland, he probably had.
Yeah,
right
because
after that chip,
I was just thinking it would be very funny if he had one when he went to Miami and then just went back to Cleveland.
And they came back. No, he probably got a hate video. A lot of them out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You forget how hated he was. Like I did. I watched.
Yeah,
like recently,
he was after the decision. He was the most hated man in basketball for a while.
Persona non grata, dude.
Yeah,
they hated that. Dude.
They
rightfully
hated
so. Bad move.
Oh,
bad
I
move.
agree.
I don't think the move was bad. I think it was
The way he did it. Yeah.
Oh,
Direction. Yes.
the decision
yeah, that was a little much.
is the dumbest thing. I hated it when it was happening. I'm like 12 years old, and I'm like, this is stupid, dude.
Yeah, you're right, though, because I used to hate the decision. Like, I used to be like, loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Now I'm like, go get your bag. Go do what you want, and go get a chip, because, like, Cleveland
Yeah.
stunk. So I'm like, I'm all for the decision itself. But,
Yeah.
you're right. The drama of it. Even KD kind of did it his first year when he jumped to Golden State, when he was like, oh, where am I going to go? Like, he built it up just to tweet it out or whatever.
But that's
like,
KD, man.
I'm a big LeBron fan. The thing was like an hour long.
Right.
It was ridiculous.
And everyone knew he wasn't coming back. You're not going to make a decision to come back to Cleveland.
Yeah, but imagine the PR move that would have been.
To build it back up.
Yeah.
Like, this is my town.
This is my home. I'm not going anywhere.
I mean, imagine how good he was for how long then when he couldn't get
Was
anybody
that
to come to
what?
Cleveland.
What year was that? Was that 2011?
2011. 2010, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Somewhere
I
around
was
there.
gonna be. Imagine if that was a few years later and he could use the Wolf of Wall Street gif.
I'm
No,
never leaving.
I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving.
Obviously, we can't say the full thing on there.
Yeah.
But that would have just been electric. Jim also said how much of the disdain towards Gerard was due to the favoritism Boeheim showed him versus other players, some that transferred. Kadari Richmond.
A lot.
Yeah,
A lot.
I think that's a lot. And I don't know if there's a singular player that now plays for a different school that Syracuse fans have rallied around quite like Kadari Richmond. Like, so many Syracuse fans watch Seton Hall because it's like, that should have been They're like, that should have been our point guard. I'm like, it was 3 years ago. We've got Judah Mintz.
Never forget.
Like, we've brought in a better player since, and Kadari's been tremendous for Seton Hall, and I do think he was a great fit here at Syracuse. That it sadly didn't work out because of Gerard, but I know. I mean, and I'm not putting the blame on him. The blame's more on Boeheim, but because of the Gerard situation. But yeah, SU fans just rallied around Kadari Richmond. They're like, this is our guy. Like, he's playing in the Big East. You're rooting for a different Big East team now. This feels wrong. And I do it too.
Oh, yeah. You love Big East basketball.
I do love Big East basketball. And I watch a lot of Seton Hall because of Kadari Richmond.
UConn's got a big game today.
What they got today? Is it Georgetown?
It's Georgetown.
Oh, God.
They don't have a big game.
38.5 point spread.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty bad.
It's got to be
16.5.
That's way too low.
Seton Hall was giving them that 2 days ago.
Yeah, that's way too low. For Connecticut?
In Georgetown, that doesn't mean crap.
No, that means nothing. That arena stinks. Fans don't show up.
It's got to be the worst home field advantage in all of college sports.
Oh, my God. They get 800 people to games.
Filling a massive arena. Probably one of the biggest arenas in college basketball that never gets packed.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not on campus. It's, a lot of things are the downfall of that.
See what Ed Cooley said to a Seton Hall fan?
Oh, no.
He was like, Seton Hall fan gave him a chirp. He's like, what are you getting, $7 million per win? Which is great chirp, by the way.
Sure.
That all-time chirp. And he was like, dude, I'm rich as hell, dude. Like, I don't care. I can buy and sell whatever I want. Like, I am so rich.
Good on him.
He's not wrong.
For just taking a bag. Love it, Cooley.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy. I don't like it. I don't know. Him and Jeff Goodman, their whole thing when he left Providence.
Yeah.
I liked him. First off, he's got to get some plugs or something. I can't keep staring at his head. I'm sorry.
He's got alopecia.
No, it's too much. I don't know what it is. It distracts me from the games. There's not much to watch on the field, on the court, so I'm just staring at Ed Cooley's head the entire game. It pisses me off. I'm gonna be honest. When Jaden Epps goes out there and misses his 7 3-pointer, and I go, get some plugs! Fix something!
Oh, God.
Sorry. All right, what were we talking about? Joe Girard?
Yeah,
stinks.
We were, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. I'll play you my conversation with James Zuba. A lot more to come here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
How important is peace of mind these days? Exactly. That's why at McGuire.
I hate this disease. I'm sorry.
that might be a little too far.
A little too much. It's not
Guys,
his fault, Mark. Josh,
Josh,
he has a disease.
he's
It's
a
not his
serious problem.
fault. Get it. I don't know. Jada Pinkett had hair for a while. He can do something. It's a wig. It was a wig, Josh.
Pat said he supports it.
Of course he does. Pat, I can't wait for you to call in and talk about Taylor Swift in about 10 minutes. That's gonna be great. It's good. It's good content, dude. Now I'll give you Pat. I'll give you a quick hit. Please don't call in about her. But her Grammys reaction kind of turned me off from Taylor. The whole time I've been like, I love Taylor. Whatever. Who cares? The shock and awe that you won Album of the Year
For the fourth time or whatever.
Me, the odds on the biggest superstar in the world.
Yeah.
Be like, shut the hell up. What are you talking about? You don't have to be this like, I'm so shocked. No, you're the biggest thing in the world. Accept it. Take your Grammy and move on.
She is just so absurdly famous.
Oh, yeah. I love the private jet memes now, though. And all the social, like, she builds a tree for every mile that she flies on her jet. I'm like,
yeah.
Does that who cares?
She took a 15-minute drive on a plane.
Right. But she built like 7 trees for that, dude. And it's like, who cares? That's not the point. Nobody cares. I'm not even an environment guy, but now you're making
I'm not either.
For it. I don't care about this thing we live in, but I do now.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Just going to send it over to my interview yesterday with Noon's Magician Deputy Editor James Zuba, talking about all things Syracuse basketball. All right, it is my absolute pleasure to be joined by our first guest today, James Zuba, the Deputy Editor at Noon's Magician. James, how are we doing today?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be on and looking forward to talking some Syracuse hoops.
And we have plenty to talk about. It's been quite the eventful week for Syracuse. Let's start with the big story. Benny Williams, no longer a part of this team. The junior was dismissed by Coach Adrian Autry the other day. Do you have any information you can give us on this? Of course, the university released their very vague statement like they always do. So do you have anything that you can give us on that front?
Yeah, pretty tight-lipped from the coaching staff. They're obviously not going to delve too far into the details, but other than what we've seen publicly, no, not really. I mean, we saw kind of in that Wake Forest game some interesting behavior, Benny throwing the ball and bumping shoulders with Adrian Autry on his way back to the bench after getting a technical foul, and didn't appear to turn around to try to apologize or anything like that. And then obviously we saw him go to the locker room before going through the handshake line. So you have to think, from the things that we've seen publicly this year, kind of being a little bit aloof in that Cornell game earlier in the non-conference following, the early season suspensions. That maybe some of that stuff was the last straw if nothing happened, during practice or something earlier in the week. So definitely tough. The staff has talked about how emotional it was for the staff, obviously, and for the players. And you got to think it's pretty tough for Benny. So, but sometimes you got to make some tough decisions. So it's tough for Syracuse, but they're just kind of forced to move on without him.
Now, I know it's reading into comment sections on the internet, and that's something that we as sports media people do too often, but probably shouldn't do, because usually it means nothing. I mean, how many wide receivers send out very vague tweets that no one really understands and they mean absolutely nothing? But it seemed like what we saw in the Instagram comments on the SU basketball post was the players have a sense of disappointment, heartbreak. Is there any sense of vibe about if that's directed at the coaching staff, directed at the university, or more so just about, okay, a guy that we've spent all season with, one of our brothers, is gone now?
It is interesting. I think for the players, each of them have responded a little bit differently to the dismissal. Just looking at the Instagram post that the university put out, I mean, I did think it was a little interesting that Chris Bell and Justin Taylor did not comment on it. They just kind of liked it, and maybe some of the other players, such as Judah Mintz and Quadir Copeland, commented and seemingly expressing sympathies there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if we saw, but Judah Mintz's mom did weigh in on Twitter and responded to somebody just saying, each player responds differently, which maybe explains why Judah didn't maybe play as well, and Chris Bell did have a good game. So if you want to read too far into that, go for it. Be my guest. But when it comes to the comments on the message boards, I think it's important to know where things are coming from or who they're coming from. But if it's people within the team that kind of have a better idea, that maybe sometimes you can read a little bit into that sort of stuff.
James, if we as media people love doing anything, it's reading too much into something that means absolutely nothing. There's it's one of those funny things that, like I mentioned wide receiver tweets, but we've gotten to this point in world of social media, and it's sort of bled into college sports. It was mainly a pro sports thing for a while, but we're starting to see so much more personality from these players, both for good and ill. I mean, that seems like it's part of why at least Benny got dismissed. Was he did have a personality, let's say. Sometimes it wasn't the best personality and it wasn't the best attitude, but it is interesting that in this world of college sports now, there is always a comment that you can get from these guys when it's on their own time and not on the university's time. Do you spend much time looking at things like that? Just a genuine question about your process.
I don't, to be honest with you. Maybe sometime in the off season when things are a little bit, less busy, there'll be a little bit more opportunity to maybe interview guys and kind of have their hair let down, so to speak. So.
Yeah.
Usually, for the most part, it's post-game interviews and that kind of stuff that is on the university's time and the university's watch and the basketball program specifically. So, but no, maybe in the off season, but this time of year, certainly not. We're actually discouraged from reaching out to players individually for whatever that's worth. So it's a little bit more difficult to get access to the players when it's maybe not immediately following a post-game or that sort of thing where, there's somebody that can monitor the conversations and what's going on and that sort of stuff.
Now, I do want to ask you something I've seen multiple times on social media, and it's not a take I necessarily agree with, but I sort of want to get your take on this. This is a step in the wrong direction for Coach Autry. And I know Benny statistically wasn't having a great season, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 17 minutes a game. But I've seen people say that, this shows that Autry never had control. This is a power move to try to get the locker room behind him, and they don't think it's going to work. Like I said, I don't necessarily agree with the take, but from your perspective as someone who is, at the games, in the locker rooms, post-game, from the player's perspective, from what you've observed, is there some credence to that maybe Autry hasn't had the locker room for part of the season?
I totally disagree with it being sort of like a power move or maybe a power trip. I think as the head coach, sometimes you do have to make tough decisions and put your foot down and make it known what will be tolerated and what won't.
I agree.
Like I said, what we've seen publicly, and we hear things of what happens behind the scenes when we're not there, right? But we don't see everything. But from what we've seen publicly, we have seen, Benny was suspended in the early season, did not play in that Gonzaga game in the Maui Invitational, if we remember that.
He was just benched for that game.
Yeah, which, I don't think the coaching staff was too willing to elaborate on why that was. But, for the Cornell game, we saw a disengaged Benny, and obviously we saw everything of what happened in that Wake Forest game. So those are just the things that we've all seen out in public, right? But I think there comes a certain point in time when you maybe can't tolerate certain behaviors, and you have to say, hey, there's a tough decision to be made here. I know that there were conversations that were had. There were opportunities that were given. There were plenty of chances that were given, and it seemed like no progress was being made. So Sometimes these things come to a head, and coaches have to make a decision. But I think when you look at where this team has been this season and kind of coming off those 2 losses, it was, okay, this isn't working. And if the NCAA tournament is going to be a longer shot now, I got to put my foot down and draw a line in the sand and show the team what won't be tolerated and the culture that we're trying to establish going forward. I think this was a culture move. I think it was a long-term move. And it's one that, frankly, I agree with. So I think Adrian Autry had to make a tough decision. I think it was the right decision. And I think this is something that'll benefit the program longer term. And if it ultimately fails, then it fails. But you have to stick to your guns and go with what you're going by. And as a leader, sometimes you do have to make tough choices.
Now, I want to ask you as well, just about, I mean, obviously it's his first season, and I have come on this show and other shows time and time again and preached you have to give college coaches time. And I will gladly do that with Adrian Autry. I just want to ask your opinion on Red's coaching jobs so far this year, where the team is right now. Have they exceeded expectations, fallen below expectations? What have you seen out of Autry this year, just in general as a coach? Do you like him, not like him? What's going on?
I think Adrian Autry is a good guy, and those who maybe know him best or have followed the program or cover the program want to see him do well based on those things and his character and all those sorts of things, right? But going back to the preseason, I said Syracuse, is probably an 18 to 20 win team, and a stretch goal might be the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
Looks like they'll fall short of the tournament, but certainly 18 wins and maybe even 20 is still in play.
Yep.
At 15 wins. So I think that would be an improvement over last year. And as a first-year head coach, that's really difficult to do as you're trying to establish a team and a culture and an identity. And, we've heard things like the Orange Standard and all the things that you have to do as kind of a leader to get your team to, get up to speed and play the way that you want them to play. But it is a process, and there's no, silver bullet or magic wand for these things. It does take time to grow out your program. And from everything that I've seen, I think the Adrian Autry era is ahead of schedule. Now, if we're kind of still here in 2 or 3 seasons from now and, the team's still struggling to make the NCAA tournament, then we might be having a different conversation. But as far as I could tell, within year one, there's positive momentum. A culture has been established, and there's some good recruits coming in next year as well. So we'll see what they can do in the near future. But as far as I could tell for right now, where we're at into February and the first year of the Adrian Autry era, I think it's ahead of schedule.
And we'll get to, I do want to talk some recruiting in a minute, but one last thing on Autry, and that'll lead us into the Louisville game from the other day. Is there too much zone?
For that game specifically, I tend to think so. Now, if it was just a one-game thing against maybe a more physical Louisville team that Autry felt he couldn't maybe match their physicality, or whether he was trying to protect guys from foul trouble, going with a shorter rotation there, I think that kind of remains to be seen. But I do think so. Yeah, the defense was not good by any stretch against Louisville, and I think, regardless of what defense Syracuse does play based on the personnel that's left, rebounding is going to be a struggle either way. So they got to find a way to maybe mitigate some of those rebounding issues and maybe keep it to a single-digit deficit. But I think it's good to maybe be adaptable based on your current situation, right? I mean, we've seen Chance Westry; he's obviously been unavailable for a long time now. But Naheem McLeod not available, and obviously Benny Williams dismissed. So maybe you have to make some unanticipated changes that otherwise you wouldn't have had to make if you had those guys available.
What surprised me about that Louisville game, outside of the fact that they used zone almost exclusively and it was infuriating and I hate it, was no Kyle Cuff. Was he unavailable for the game? Did I miss something?
No, it wasn't asked post game, so we didn't get an answer on that. I'm with you. I was a little surprised to see him not play, especially given how the defense was going. Kyle Cuff's more of a defensive player than an offensive one. So, no, I'm just as surprised as you. I wish it was asked post game, but nobody really asked that question, so we didn't get much color on that.
And you brought it up. And outside of Malik Brown, who is my favorite player on this year's team, I love Malik Brown. He's great. He wins my Merrick Dolezaj Award for the year, which is just the guy that does everything at least somewhat well, and is the heart and soul of this team, in my opinion. But outside of him, boy, oh boy, this team cannot rebound. I mean, not even a lick. It was 40-21 on the glass in that Louisville game. A game where we forced 17 turnovers. We won by 2. Something has to be addressed here, at least in practice or something, no?
Yeah, as far as the first part with Malik Brown, yours and then Christian de Guzman of Noon's Magicians,
Yep.
Marek Dolezaj comparison, he loves him as well. But Malik does a lot of things well, as was evidenced in that Louisville game. But in terms of the rebounding, I don't know that there's an obvious solution based on the personnel that's left on this team. I mean, yeah, you're kind of forced to play small with Malik at the center, and maybe Peter Carey can give you some more minutes, but maybe not the offensive presence that Malik is on the other end. And at the forward spot, yeah, you have no Benny Williams now. So Justin Taylor's been kind of forced to play out of position all year. That's something that I don't think has been talked about enough in terms of framing it within the context of his struggles, right? He's definitely struggled shooting the ball, but has kind of been asked to do other things and play in difficult matchups. So I think that's part of the thing that's hurt his game a little bit. But I don't know what else you do. I mean, yeah, Moni Ahima's been kind of hampered with a lower back injury. He's not as available as maybe Peter Carey is. And, yeah, it just seems like Syracuse is going to struggle to rebound the rest of the way. And they're just going to have to find ways to win in other parts of the game that maybe looks like, the turnover battle, or maybe switching to zone and trying to turn teams over and get it done in that way. Because I just don't see a way in which Syracuse gets better rebounding the rest of the way, given the personnel that they have.
Well, I don't want to say it bothered me that Chris Bell had a fantastic game and grabbed 6 boards, but he grabbed 6 boards. We haven't seen him do that all year. All of a sudden, he was all over the glass. He grabbed some really good rebounds in that game. And I was like, where is this been for the rest of the season? We have a running joke on my show with a regular watcher who every week sets a prop. It's who has more rebounds, Chris Bell or me plus 1.5. And
that's a great prop.
It's a great prop. And I take myself half the time. And but he grabbed 6. He looked good on the glass. That's something we haven't seen from him. Maybe he's going to put more effort in on the glass, and that would help. And I don't want to shy away from the fact that Chris Bell had the best game we've seen him have in a Syracuse uniform. He was lights out the other night, and hopefully we can see more of that from him moving forward in the absence of Benny as well.
Yeah, I don't know what review is more scathing of Chris Bell, either your guys' prop or Seth Greenberg's coverage of the game on Wednesday night versus Louisville.
I like Greenberg. I'm a Seth Greenberg guy. I know he's quite divisive in the world of college basketball personalities. I've always been a Greenberg guy. He hated Syracuse the other night. It was unbelievable.
Oh my goodness! And you know what? I will give him credit. He did not shy away from that when interview with Chris Bell post game. So he didn't shy away from some of his critiques when he was around him. But no, Seth's got great basketball knowledge, obviously, and he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, in terms of Chris, right, like some of his rebounds have come in non-traffic situations where maybe the ball just bounces and he's able to pick it up. But he's got to compete more on the glass. And I think any night that he would get 6 rebounds, that's a major win for Syracuse.
Yeah.
But we all know he could shoot the ball. He has tremendous value and upside in that area of the game. It's just it needs to be rounded out a little bit more. And he started to do some other things. He had that big block at the end as well. And sometimes I think we forget these guys are just sophomores and they're still kind of adjusting to college basketball. But we know Chris can score the ball. We know he can dunk in transition. He can do all that sort of stuff. But he's got to round out his game a little bit more if he's going to be a little bit more productive going forward. And he'll be called upon to do it. He knows he's going to get minutes now. There's no Benny Williams behind him. Justin Taylor struggling, so he knows he's going to get minutes. So I think, I'm with you. Chris has got to do some other things. He certainly had a great game against Louisville. Not just a good game, but it's a great game.
Yeah, I mean, it was between Malik Brown and Chris Bell, we saw 2 of the best all-around performances from Syracuse basketball players this year. I mean, throw up Judah with his near triple-double, and, J.J. Starling's had some great games, but all around really good performances for the 2 of them. We got to look ahead. This is a big one. In my opinion, this is one of, if not the biggest game Syracuse has played this year. Clemson at the Dome, 12 o'clock tip, the return of the incredibly divisive Joe Girard. What type of reception do you think JG3 is going to get at the Dome?
Honestly, it's maybe not an exciting response, but I think it'll be mixed.
Yeah.
I would hope Syracuse fans would know enough to give Joe his flowers and appreciate what he did here. I think some of the time that, for all of his defensive maybe shortcomings, people don't really realize enough of what was around him in that time. And I always say when talking about the Joe Girard is, if he played with Hakeem Warwick and Carmelo Anthony and maybe some others, Queth Duaney, so on and so forth, I think Joe Girard would have looked like a much better player, but we obviously know that wasn't the case. So I would like to think that Syracuse fans would know enough to appreciate his efforts for what he did here. Of course, he wasn't a flawless player. He wasn't a perfect player, and kind of got picked on the defensive end sometimes. We all know that, right? But he certainly gave a good 4 years to Syracuse and made Sweet 16. So I think there might be some boos knowing Syracuse fans.
Oh, yeah.
But I hope that he's given a good reception on Saturday. And yeah, to the first part of your point, Mark, is if Syracuse is going to make a postseason push, well, now is the time. You got Clemson here on Saturday, and you got North Carolina on Tuesday. You'd like to think if they don't get either of those games, that any shot at a postseason will have to come from Washington, D.C. for the ACC tournament. So it looks like a longer shot. It looks a little less realistic given what's happened over recent weeks, but there's still a chance, I guess, right?
But bold comparison, a subtle comparison, but a bold comparison out of you there, James. That's I don't hate it. Joe Girard, he shot well. He shot free throws well. He shot threes well. That's about the credit I give him. I'm on record. He was never essentially necessarily my favorite player when he was in a Syracuse uniform. But then, of course, he goes and scores 21 points in a win against North Carolina for Clemson. So love that. I was reading Noon's Magician and the predictions for the game. You've got it 78 Clemson, Syracuse 68. Tell us about what you think is going to happen in the game.
Yeah, well, in terms of that, I mean, Clemson does a lot of things well. I think, kind of going back on the rebounding category, Ian Shefflin and PJ Hall, it's hard to think that Syracuse can compete with those two guys on the glass. It's hard to think that those guys wouldn't each get double figures in rebounding, right? But Clemson's a really balanced team. They do a lot of things well. They can score the ball well. They don't really turn it over much. That's the area of the game Syracuse is going to have to win. The good news for Syracuse is that Clemson does not really force teams into a lot of turnovers. But I do think Clemson should be able to kind of have its way with Syracuse on the glass. And maybe Syracuse can keep it close. But the way that Clemson's playing right now, I mean, you look at the two losses they've had recently, both 1-point losses at Duke, at Virginia. Those games could have gone either way. They're playing really good basketball right now, wins over Florida State, North Carolina. So the way that they're playing, they're really ramping it up for the tournament. I think they're playing really good ball. They're predicted to win all of their games down the stretch except for one, the last one against Wake Forest. So statistically, Clemson will be favored in just about every game from here on out. And they defend pretty well too. So the Syracuse offense, as we know, has had difficulties within the half court. They're going to have to try to push it in transition and get out. But a strategy that might come back to bite them given the lack of depth that Syracuse has now. So Syracuse has a lot of things working against it, whereas Clemson's playing some of its best ball of the season.
And last thing I want to bring up, On3 recently named Donnie Freeman the best power forward in the class. Freeman, of course, committed to Syracuse. I mean, bringing in a 5-star guy like this, recently updated to a top 10 prospect in the country, according to On3 Sports. We're looking at potentially a very bright future for Syracuse when it comes to recruiting with Autry at the helm. What are your thoughts on what the future right now looks like for the Syracuse team?
Yeah, well, you look at two of the biggest holes on this team right now, and it's the obvious lack of a power forward that they have right now and the lack of shooting. Well, you're addressing both of those things with the two freshmen that you're bringing in next year, and Elijah Moore and Donnie Freeman, the best power forward in the country, according to On3. So kind of a stretch four who's really versatile, can do a lot, can defend multiple positions. He can finish around the rim. He's got a decent mid-range game, and he can stretch it to the three as well. So He'll be inexperienced coming in next year. You worry about that a little bit, but certainly if you're getting the top power forward in the country and a McDonald's All-American as well, that bodes well for Syracuse. Adrian Autry, as we know, he's got deep ties to the DMV area. Hiring Brendan Strawn, kind of strengthening that pipeline, that team takeover pipeline that he's got. We know that he's been able to pull out of that area pretty well. So Syracuse will be able to continually get guys out of the DMV, I think, and continue out that pipeline to Syracuse. But yeah, certainly the guys that they bring in next year, really interesting and address some of the shortcomings of this team based on who stays and who leaves. Syracuse might also have to tap into the transfer portal as well, which we know Adrian Autry is willing to do. He did that this offseason with getting guys like Chance Westry and Naheem McLeod in there and JJ Starling. So it's a new era, it's a new approach, and Autry is at least amenable enough to go and utilize those resources in those ways. So, but in terms of the recruiting class next year, obviously, yeah, just two really strong recruits that kind of address some of the shortcomings of this year's team.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse has done pretty well with stretch fours out of the DMV, so I'll take it, especially ones as highly touted as Donnie Freeman. James, thank you so much for joining me. Pleasure to have you on as always. Enjoy the game and catch up with you again soon. All right.
Thanks, Mark. It's my pleasure, and we'll get you on the podcast as well sometime soon. But always appreciate you taking the time to get me on and for coming on. It's my pleasure.
All right, there he is, James Zuba, talking a little Syracuse basketball. The man. Love when we have James on. We'll be right back. More to come here on Outside the Box Score. With me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260.
For a limited time at Mattress Express, qualified.
What a guy.
What a guy. Love James.
He's great. I
Yeah.
love of course, we've talked about his tweets about the food
Oh, yeah.
at the Dome.
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah, he's the best.
One of the better, one of the better thinkers, I think, of Syracuse
Yeah,
TV people.
you don't get a lot of BS with James, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
Like, he's always, and, sometimes, like, I asked him, like, has he heard anything about, like, Benny outside of,
Yeah.
And I have heard some things. I'm still waiting on confirmation. We might be able to talk about that by the end of the show.
Bang.
But yeah, like, he was just like, no, I haven't heard anything. Like,
I believe it.
Yeah, and I believe it because I know for a fact if he had heard something, he would have at least mentioned that he heard something.
Mm.
Mark, you need to talk about Lax. We're about to talk about Lax, actually. What?
Pat said that?
Yeah, Pat said that. Yeah, they're insanely good.
Off to a hot start.
Off to a really hot start.
I saw their opener game because we talked about it last week, and then one game this past week. So.
Yeah, they played Colgate.
Yep.
I think, and they crushed them.
We're back.
But SU lacrosse is so back.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like if you give a college lacrosse coach more than 2 years without claiming that he should be fired.
Can him.
Maybe, especially if he's the greatest lacrosse player of all time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Syracuse lacrosse coach?
Gary Gate.
I'm not a lax guy.
He was dubbed the Michael Jordan of lacrosse.
And he coaches at Syracuse.
Yes, he went to Syracuse. Him and his brother went to Syracuse. The Gate brothers.
The Gate brothers?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Gate Brothers Lacrosse is one of the bigger lacrosse equipment companies in the world.
Oh,
it's
I
like
take it they use it at Syracuse.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
I reckon. The Hornets are Nike, or well, he doesn't own them anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
that's the greatest marketing.
Can you imagine if the Hornets used Adidas?
Yeah. You're like, Michael, they're gonna give us a deal. He's like,
well,
no,
no,
we'll give you a deal.
They use Nike, but but I don't they use like for stick because Gate Brothers was more like sticks and stuff. They were more like specialized lacrosse equipment. I thought a lot of the guys on the team used Gate. I know obviously they use Nike for uniforms and stuff because Syracuse has a contract with Nike. We were one of the first schools to get a contract with Nike. Like we've been with Nike forever. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Great interview with James Zuba, as always. Insightful. Always like talking to him. And I'm excited. He mentioned hoping to get on that podcast he's got with Noons Magician. That'd be a lot of fun. They do great work over there at noonsmagician.com. The full name, of course, Troy Noons is an absolute magician, which is one of the great blog names out there. Always liked that. So great talking to him. And big game today for Syracuse basketball. 12 o'clock tip at the JMA Wireless Dome. I will be there. Got a nice little hookup through Myers Creek, getting their box over there at the JMA Wireless Dome. That is why we love our friends at Myers Creek. We also love them for their 16 craft beers on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Delicious beers. The Velvet Fog. I know you can talk about this place for more than I can.
Oh yeah.
I love Myers Creek. I go there all the time. I was unable to go to trivia this week. I was a little under the weather earlier this week, so I actually haven't been this week, which is wild for me. For me to go 7 full days without going to Myers Creek, I must have been sick, and I was. But yeah, 16 delicious beers. The Velvet Fog. The Just a Bit Outside. The Floating on By.
Special treat sometimes. Ivan's Revenge.
Yeah,
Special treat.
I like how that's a beer that was there once when we went, and you still remember it.
It's good.
Yeah.
All of their I've never had a beer there and been like, meh, not it.
Same.
I just keep drinking them.
Yeah, I've never had a beer there. Responsibly, of course. I've never had a beer there that I wasn't immediately like, that's a good beer.
Yep.
And it's always changing.
They do it again, Mark. Every time.
Every single time. Ivan and those people that make those beers. Shout out Ivan. I'm going to the game with him. Shout out Ivan. All those guys that work and making those beers do such a great job. And then you throw in the food. Oh, they've got wings on the menu now, at least at the Inner Harbor. I don't know if it's on the menu at Cazenovia. This mac and cheese.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy. Comes in. I love when the mac and cheese comes in like a little skillet.
They just took it right out of the oven.
It comes out piping hot in the cast iron.
Yeah, you touch that thing, you burn your hand off.
Some chives, some bacon on there, beer cheese made with their own beer. Oh,
get out of here,
buddy. It's in the conversation for the best mac and cheese I've ever had.
Wow.
It is
I gotta get this cheese.
Unbelievably good. I went there. I got it for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I went back 2 days later just to get it again. You'll keep coming back just for the mac and cheese.
That cheese, Marky.
It was so good. Absolutely delicious. And so was all their food, like you said, the pizza, the wings, everything there. I'm a big fan of their beef on weck. Love a beef on weck. They do a great one there.
You know what I've noticed too? Great sports bar too. They always have hockey on.
Yes,
big hocky people at the Inner Harbor.
Hockey bar.
I love it.
Yeah, there's always hockey on at the Inner Harbor.
And they take requests. They put on the French Open one time when I was there. They put on tennis for
They
me.
did.
Love
I
it.
remember that. They couldn't find it at first, and they went out of their way to put tennis on for you.
For some loser. And they were like, what is this? This guy's betting on tennis? What a freak. Okay, we'll throw it on. We'll throw it on for you.
What a freak. God, this guy. Who knows with him?
They take anybody over there.
No, but it is great people.
Yep.
Jordan, their director, Ivan, Tim, my bartender. I love Tim. Great people over in Myers Creek. Great atmosphere. 2 locations, Cazenovia and Inner Harbor. Been out to Kaz. I've been out to Kaz. It's the Palace. Fantastic place. Our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company. I'll be drinking some of their beer while I'm at the Dome today because they've got Myers Creek at the Dome. So,
fog?
Oh yeah, they got the fog.
Buddy.
I think I'll have a fog. Absolutely delicious. So shout out our friends Myers Creek Brewing Company. Getting back talking about sports for a second. Pat said it while we were in the break. We do need to talk a little bit of Syracuse lacrosse. Now, none of us in here claim to be lacrosse experts. I don't know, Braylon, or no.
I don't know, stick.
I like lacrosse. I didn't really when I was growing up. I was a baseball kid. There was always that rivalry, baseball versus lacrosse. But I had lacrosse friends, and I had to learn to like lacrosse because my brother-in-law was a D3 lacrosse coach for a number of years. Ohio Wesleyan, SUNY Plattsburgh. Actually interviewed for the Syracuse job when that opened up. after Desco, and then they hired that Gate guy. I don't know.
Some guy.
Yeah, some guy. Or I don't remember. I think he interviewed, but he applied at least.
Lacrosse like just recently got trendy to me. I know in upstate New York it's been a thing.
Well, yeah,
forever.
I mean, this is like the home of lacrosse.
Right.
Yeah.
In my mind, lacrosse was a weirdo sport. Like in high school, like people who played lacrosse were like, what are you doing? And then that was the boom. Lacrosse is like the biggest sport to play in high school now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
But it's been big at Syracuse for a long time. It's 8 national championships for the men's lacrosse team. Pretty good. Syracuse arguably, in the conversation for the best college lacrosse program ever.
Yeah.
The Powells, the Gates, you can go to Jim Brown. it goes all the way. The story about Jim Brown is he liked lacrosse more than he liked football. And
he didn't get hit in the head.
Well, yeah. And he was also arguably just as good, if not better, at lacrosse, because he was maybe the greatest athlete who ever lived.
Yeah.
Like 8-sport athlete or whatever. And I always remember after he passed away, talking to Bud Poliquin on this show, just remembering Jim Brown. The entire interview was about Jim Brown.
Yep.
And he goes, Mark, I don't know if there's ever been another player that could have gone professional in 7 sports. He goes, if they had, professional lacrosse, whatever, he could have been a heavyweight boxer. The guy, apparently he was scouted by the Yankees. He didn't even play that much baseball, but the little amount of baseball he played, the Yankees were like, we could use this guy. Like, he was unbelievable. But big lacrosse guy. So great history of lacrosse here at Syracuse, and they're looking to add to it because the men's lacrosse team is back. Took a couple years under Gary Gate, but this is why you give college coaches time. Year 3, they're 3-0. They come off a 16-3 win over Manhattan.
Is that good?
Blew them out of the water. There's face-off specialist, by the way.
Yeah.
At Manhattan, the son of one Mariano Rivera. Mo was in the Dome yesterday. We had Mariano sightings at the JMA Wireless Dome.
Just to watch his son get creamed.
Just to watch his son lose to the greatest lacrosse player of all time in Gary Gate, coaching this team who is on a mission. And you know who was on a mission? Joey Spallina. Came in as the top recruit in the country a few years ago.
Name to watch.
And he had 10 points in that game yesterday.
He had 10 points in the one game?
Yeah, yesterday.
He scored 16. He had 10 points.
Well,
He had
I was
10 points.
Confused when I was doing that because I guess in lacrosse you get points for other things besides
Assists.
goals.
Yeah, it's like hockey. So 10 points in a game. First Syracuse player with 10 points in a game since Ryan Powell. That was against Hobart on March 28th in the year 2000.
Wow.
It's been 24 years.
That's crazy.
And Ryan Powell, lacrosse Hall of Famer, one of the greats. And we've got another one of the greats here at Syracuse. I've been pounding on the table that Joey Spallina is one of the best lacrosse players I have ever seen. And granted, my history with lacrosse is a lot shorter than some people's.
I like blanket statements. Sure.
But I say in my brief time watching, really watching lacrosse.
There it is.
There it is. I've had quite the morning. All right, I'm a little flustered still. I've had quite the morning, and in that brief time, I haven't seen many more skilled players than Joey Spallina, and he did some things yesterday. He had this one no look goal in full motion yesterday. He's in a sprint, and he does things that no one can do.
Lacrosse highlights are some of the craziest.
Lacrosse highlights are insane.
Moments. Yeah.
So SU Lacrosse they were after their first game, they were ranked 9th in the country.
Yep.
And 7 out of the 8 teams ahead of them are on the schedule.
Oh, buddy.
So we're coming. We're playing the top competition, and we're trying to beat all of them.
I take it they don't play a very heavy conference schedule. Is there?
No, it's a lot of conference. The ACC is the lacrosse conference.
Really?
Yes.
I would have thought
the ACC is the lacrosse conference.
Okay, that makes sense.
Lacrosse schools are weird You know who's got one of the better lacrosse programs in the country?
Denver.
Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's always Johns Hopkins
Yeah.
is a great lacrosse school. There's really weird random schools that are great lacrosse schools. But North Carolina, Virginia, Duke
lacrosse.
Yeah, like Syracuse. Oh,
I got Braylon there.
you did get Braylon.
Okay.
No, but these are all really good lacrosse schools, and so a lot of college lacrosse runs through the ACC, and Syracuse is trying to get back on top of that, and they're looking real good so far.
Should be exciting.
We opened against Vermont this year. That's a game that we opened against them last year. We won 7-5. We beat them. It was like 20-7 this year or something.
This is great for SU fans. If you've already given up on the basketball program,
go to lacrosse.
We're on lacrosse now.
This is the cycle.
Yep.
We watch football. We give up on football. We go to basketball. We give up on basketball. We go to lacrosse. The cycle starts all over again.
And by the time lacrosse is done, Fran Brown, we're back.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
Back on
It's great. It's great.
Oh,
And shout out. We've got a little family connection with lacrosse as well, outside of my brother-in-law. My two cousins, Jeremy and Mark Murphy, go around with these rings on their fingers.
Yeah.
National champions at the University of Virginia back in 2004, 2005, around there. So both very, very good lacrosse players. I remember because I don't see them much, but I saw them at the family reunion a few years ago. And I knew that they played lacrosse, but I didn't know that
they wear the rings.
And I see this championship ring, just this huge ring on my cousin's hand. And I go up, I'm like, listen, I'm no expert.
Yeah.
That's a championship ring. He goes, yeah, lacrosse, national champion, University of Virginia. I was like, how did I not know this about you?
That makes him so happy. Every time he gets to tell that story.
Oh, but
good on him.
Yeah, they wear the rings around. They're proud. They're proud, man. So it is a growing sport, and it is a good sport. Even women's lacrosse, which when I first started watching lacrosse, women's lacrosse was borderline unwatchable. It was like free because I saw it in high school. Like I had seen high school. It was just freeze tag. But they've made a lot of improvements to the women's game, and these girls are getting so much more talented too. Like with the growth of lacrosse, in the SU women's lacrosse program last year was in contention for a national champion. Like they were ranked in top 5 in the country. I think number 1 or 2 at one point. So we know anything at Syracuse. We know lacrosse. We've got to take a timeout. Come back here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260.
So
Okay.
We took the EPL game.
Yep.
Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's got a parlay in Spain of Madrid and Girona over 2.5. That's an alt total, and then both teams to score parlayed together.
Yeah.
I can't do that, but both teams to score minus 180. It's a lot of juice.
That's a lot of juice.
So I just lay the juice.
You might just lay the juice.
Desperate times.
Yeah.
Dad, you're listening out there. Going to a casino later today now.
Yeah.
I think I got to just start my luck hot. Just keep riding. Ride the hot hand.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. Copy. There. Okay. Jim says 1 hour just isn't enough time for this show. I agree, Jim.
Bang! Tell the network, Jim.
Tell the station.
Write a strongly worded email. I've been writing them for weeks under different aliases.
Have you talked to Cole?
Oh, I don't think I'm getting it. That's crazy.
There's no way.
It's been a week. He hasn't messaged me.
Oh, my God.
It's insane. I'm also interviewing. So imagine this in their mind. I'm waiting on a job part-time in a hockey rink, folks. Okay, that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to work part-time at a friggin' hockey rink. I'm waiting on that. And meanwhile, I'm interviewing with Syracuse next week. I got interviewed at Syracuse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what
For,
department?
their finance department.
Oh, okay.
Business operations. I mean,
Nice.
that's where my life's at, though,
Yeah.
right? I get to interview at a D1 school, a
Mhm.
good, astounding university.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss out on the part-time hockey rink job. What the are we talking about, okay? People say you got it tough out there. I think so. Meanwhile, I got a roommate from college who's on a mental break. Keeps talking to me about cutting up a highlight reel for him. He's going insane.
Have you done that?
No. Because I'm like, no, I don't want to buy it. It costs $10. I don't want to do it. And then I got to buy the software. No, I'm good. And he's like, do it. Invest in yourself, maggot. And then he starts talking about my relationship. And then I'm like, I haven't talked to you in a year, you psycho. Get the hell out of my life.
We're coming back.
You freak.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260.
Anyone outside of the YouTube audience, you got a job at a hockey rink, maybe pass it along my way. I'm looking to get into the hockey rink game, please. Anything part-time only.
Oh God. I've been working the phone today, trying to get confirmation on this Benny Williams information I was told. And I've heard it from a couple of sources. Couple of different people have told me about it, but just not enough confirmation right now, I'd say, for me to go public with this. But I will say, and I said it on Twitter, I sort of alluded to it. The situation that caused Benny's dismissal from the team is similar to the situation that led to his suspension earlier in the season, on a worse level. It's not good. What I heard happened, at least, is not a good look for Benny at all.
Yeah.
And it started probably with the situation during the Wake Forest game and just escalated from there.
Nobody likes getting blown out. I mean, it's tough to emotions holding it back at that time.
So that's all I'm going to say on that front for now. I'm going to continue working to try to get confirmation on what happened, because I do enjoy talking about that sort of thing. And I don't enjoy talking about it, but I
love talking about guys getting kicked off the team.
I enjoy providing that sort of information to you people out there, my loyal listeners. I'm very thankful for all of you that are out there listening, and I like to provide information like that when it comes across my desk. So, working on that.
You got a desk here? How the hell do I get a desk?
This.
Oh, yeah.
This is my desk. This table that we have set up in here. You get a desk? What? You have an office?
They don't even let me have a mug.
That's like a couple years ago. I was working here. It was before the show.
Yeah.
But I was working as a producer for the Syracuse Mets, which I still do. And I come in one day for the Man-Child show, and the Man-Child and Boy Green have these like beautiful Score 1260 jackets. And I was like, "Oh, where'd you guys get those?" They're like, "Yeah, they just gave them to us." I was like, "Do I get one?" No. Nope. They were like, "Yeah, it's not for all the employees, just for
only talent."
Yeah. And I was like, I do stuff. I talk.
Mark, maybe if you go get a job at a part-time hockey rink, maybe we can give you a jacket. Huh? Maybe you go get that job.
Now I was hoping, I was like, yeah, maybe Christmas this year, and nope, nothing.
Got rid of the Christmas bonus this year and the jackets.
Yeah, no
That's
jackets. Jim says big wins today for SU, or big wins today and tomorrow for SU. I didn't even mention SU women's basketball, number 23 in the nation. They're taking on number 15 Louisville in the Dome tomorrow at noon. I like Syracuse tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like Syracuse today.
The line has come down to 3.5. Syracuse dogs by 3.5 today, and I don't understand it.
I don't either. I think it's going to be Not even that
Could get
close.
ugly. Yeah.
Could get ugly. Josh Braylon, thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone out there listening. And thank you to James Zuba for joining us, our Syracuse basketball insider from noonsmagician.com. We'll be back next week. Special show next week.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. We'll get into that then. See you then, 11 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. Peace.
Listen on radio, smart speakers, and our free mobile app, WSKO Syracuse. A Cumulus media station, the voice of the Central New York sports fan, The Score.